Let's continue with our asynchronous call here, and let's go check out our browser here, what it happens. And we have an error up here where we created hook, cannot read the property of media details. So let's go check that out. So where do we have media details? We have that down here. So it doesn't know it needs to grab this because it's doing the for loop, and then we grab, oh, here before our, just as we have up here with our Axios, we need to grab the await. So again, this, we need this to wait for this one to run through. So it's kind of like waiting for something and then waiting for something again. So we need to add the await here, so everything is being, so once it does, it's doing one, then it's going to go through this one, grab this image, then it's doing another one, and then waiting for that one to continue before going back and forth. Like everything needs to wait for the last part to finish, right? So let's try and save this again, and hopefully we get no errors. Excellent. As you can see, this still works that we did before, so that's awesome. Right, now let's go to our HTML, or up to the top part, our template up here, and let's try to print out what we want it to print out now. Now, as I mentioned, our data is getting in a little bit after that Vue loads. So Vue renders all the templates and everything, but the data isn't here. This is why this is still empty. So we need somehow to tell Vue that you're not going to render a template, a part of the code, until the data is ready to be presented or represented or viewed or rendered or whatever word you want to use for this. So we're going to create something new up here. Well, similar to this one up here. We already have our for loop up here, so we're going to add a little to this. We're going to do a vShow like this, or you can do a vIf as well. That's really up to you. Whatever you feel like, that's cool. But we don't want this to show this entire block that starts from here and all the way down here. We don't want this data to be shown until the loading of the data is actually there, and we already created that for it with this one, with the done loading. That's why we set this to false as the start, and once it's running through all of these await statements, these operators, it's setting them to true. So now we're changing this to true when it's done loading. So we need to make Vue only load this when this has changed to true. So that's easy, right? How do we do this? With a vShow, we just do done loading, and that's what we want here. And let's see if that changes. So let's go to our browser here and hit refresh. And oops, I forgot to save. Let's do that and save, and let's go back. So hopefully now we get the actual path, and that's the new thing we didn't get before. So now we actually get this path, and now we can set this into Vue, into the image, HTML image source, how the Vue actually prints out images, and have the images printed out. Cool. So let's do this now. And how Vue is doing this, I'm just gonna leave this for now. It doesn't really matter. It's not gonna be the most pretty thing, but that's really not the point of this one here. Now we're gonna create an image. And for Vue, we don't use the source as normal, as they would do normally, because we are going to bind the data to whatever is in this object here, right? It's not going to be the same image, and we can't really use interpolation within the source. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a vbind, and then we're going to add the source. So for each source, we're binding the new picture, or the picture that is being grabbed and attached to each of our inside our for loop down here, so everything fits together correctly. What we want to grab is the VP item, because that's what we're doing up here, VP items and items. Awesome. So that's the source for the first part, and the next part is the image URL as we're saving it down here, as you can see. I can just copy this. So this is what we need for this to work. So let's just copy this up here, or I could just have copied this, good lord, and then save. That's all we really need, sorry. And hopefully when we refresh, we get the images here. So now it actually almost works. It scales down automatically. If we do this, it's not pretty, but whatever. But now you can see, now we both grab the post from, let's go back one. Yeah, so now we're grabbing this post from JSON from in here. We're grabbing the ID of the featured images from here. We're then setting up a link to our featured media here. And then we're going into this media and grabbing this source URL down here to print out the image attached to each of our shows, product, posts, whatever you're doing. All right, so this, yep, there we go. So this is one way of using or creating them, where we're waiting for first grabbing the information for the post, for the show, and then for each time it goes through, we're waiting for the image to be loaded or grabbed, saved, and then we're going to the next post, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of waiting here, waiting. But in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can change this up a little bit, so we're loading the images a little bit faster, but kind of the same process.